Hey, Ben.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. Thank you for being with us, and sorry we were a few minutes late.
Oh, no worries. I know that's the thing of 2020. Nothing ever goes as planned, so no
Yeah,
worries at all.
exactly. I'm super excited for your talk. I'm involved in education. I'm an adjunct professor. I was just mentioning before we brought you on that Unity has been a partner with GDEX for almost, I think, the entire run that we've existed. So we really appreciate you being here. Do you want to let the audience know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for having us. So, hi everyone. My name is Ben McIlmoyle. I'm a developer advocate here at Unity, and I focus on the education space. So, really, what that means is I do a lot of events similar to this. If we weren't in the midst of a global pandemic, I'd be out at a lot of universities, working with faculty and students, kind of training them on Unity, helping them getting started, and just answering whatever general technical questions they have. So that's kind of my role here.
Awesome. Well, hopefully, when we get COVID under control, maybe we can have you out next year for GDEX 2021.
I heard you guys talking about the pizza party, and I hope we can return and drink some pizza next year. Let's
That
hope.
that was a huge hit. It got me in a little bit of trouble with the convention center, but people loved it. So, um,
Yeah, they don't tend to love when we bring in greasy food and smear it all over their nice convention centers and floors.
yeah,
But hey, you know what? It's for the community, right?
yeah, it's for the people. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off to you for your talk, and we'll reconnect afterwards for some questions.
Perfect. So I will screen share here, and hopefully you guys be able to grab that. Okay, sweet. So let's get started. Always something. So I think the other question of 2020 is, can you see my screen? I've heard that so many times this year. So thank you for everyone for joining us. We're going to talk about education using Unity today, Unity in the classroom and beyond. And I think most of us have probably heard about what Unity is at this point, especially if you're at a convention or an event like this. But just in case, let's start there. And I already did talk a little bit about myself and what I do here at Unity. I'll just add also in the past, I am relatively new at Unity. I've been here for a few months now. But before this, I've been a Unity developer for the last, I don't know, 8 or so years at this point. It's been a while, focusing on a lot of ports, console ports in particular, mainly for the Nintendo Switch. So I have experience there, as well as doing games in the VR and AR game space. So with the Oculus Quest, the Vive, the Rift, the HoloLens, lots of experience on both the games and non-game side. And I also was a teacher until recently at a local college up here in London, Ontario, Canada. So definitely a little bit of international vibe coming in, not too far away from the main crowd in Ohio. But I'm glad to be here today. So, what is Unity? Like I said, I'm sure most of you at this point know what Unity is. But in case you don't, Unity is the world's leading platform for creating and operating 3D real time content. So, what does that really mean? Well, for most of us, it means you can make games in our software. But it's a lot more than that these days. And that's kind of what I hope to get into here and then talk about how that's actually being used in the education space. So, if you're unaware, we currently support over 20 platforms. I like to think that if it has a screen and you can program on it, there's a good chance Unity supports it. So, we support all your main augmented reality headsets, your VR headsets, as well as your PC, uh, all your mobile devices, all your main game devices. Pretty much, like I said, has a screen, you can program it. There's a good chance you can use Unity. We have about 1.5 million monthly creators right now. So, there's a lot of people using Unity. And about 53% of the top 1,000 mobile games are actually built using Unity at this point. So there's a lot of people using it, and it's huge in the gaming space. Like I said, if you're here, you've probably heard of Unity at this point. It's the engine of choice for a lot of big games these days. Call of Duty Mobile, Arena of Valor, and Mario Kart Tour, all using Unity as their engine. But we're a lot more than just mobile games. We're so much more than that. Some big games from this year, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, is built on the Unity engine. Crash on the Run is another great game that I personally love that's built in Unity. One of the big games from last year, the Untitled Goose Game, obviously kind of swept the memes last year everywhere. It was a lot of fun. It was also created in Unity. And then some of the biggest, hottest games right now Among Us is a game created in Unity, as well as Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. So if anyone's playing that, let me know in the chat. I love those games. They're all a lot of fun, and they're great examples of Unity in the gaming space. But we're not just games anymore. And that's what I think what a lot of this talk is going to be about. A lot of us are aware of games that are made in Unity or how to program in Unity, things like that. But not everyone's aware of the new industries that we're expanding into. So the world is changing, and this is happening even more rapidly than I think a lot of us would like, given the global pandemic. But as bad as it is for humanity, we are getting a lot of interesting new tech. We're seeing user demand changing, and the way we use traditional media is changing so rapidly because of the pandemic. So in the past, we've been stuck to a lot of 2D content, things like websites, videos, pictures, even paper, if you want to go back far enough. And those kind of experiences are changing. Given at this point, we have the both users are demanding the change, and we also have the support of new devices that are allowing us to change. So once upon a time, if the best thing you could do was open up your phone and maybe look at a web page or read a text, something like that, now we have the ability to look at our phone and use something like augmented reality. A lot of our latest phones are doing that, which opens up a whole new possibility, a whole new world using the same devices that we're used to. And a lot of our traditional tools that we've been using for years, something if you're just making a website, it's really hard to adapt them. So a lot of our users are looking for new creative solutions to step in and help solve these problems. And we have a saying here at Unity that we believe the world is a better place with more creators in it. And I honestly do believe that. And that expands so much further than the gaming space. Everyone here, or I assume most of the people here today, are gamers or game developers. But this goes far, far beyond those reaches. I want this to impact anyone that might find use of this technology. I want this to be true for a doctor that's doing research into some cure or disease they're working on, and that they can use our tech to help solve those issues they're seeing. Why should we stop just at the gaming front when we're able to go out and reach so many more people than that, and hopefully help at a humanity level to help solve some of our more difficult problems? So where are we seeing traction gained in our non-gaming industries? Well, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail here, but media and entertainment is one that I'm sure a lot of you have. You've probably seen some videos that you may not have known had Unity influence, but you've probably seen some, and I'll talk about them in just a minute. So we're being used a lot in the media and entertainment space, the movies, shorts, animations, things like that. And then we get into some other industries that I think are a little bit more interesting and definitely industries that I wasn't thinking about before I really started working at Unity. I always kind of had in my head Unity is a gaming platform, but it's really cool some of the other tech we're working on. So we're seeing it big in the AEC industry, as we call it, the architecture, engineering, and construction. And I'll go into that in a second. But a big part of this is the ability to use VR and AR. Giving those tools to traditionally non-tech people to open up new worlds. You can go and show our potential clients your new plans for his new building you're putting up, his high rise, whatever it is. And you used to have to do that by creating your own software or writing a lot of your own code, your own rendering. But now you can use a platform like Unity, and we're actually even putting tools out there to help those communities. And that's really transferring to the classroom as well, where it used to just be computer science students or maybe like 3D modeling and animation students were using Unity, but that's really, really changing, and we're seeing it being adapted to so many. Some other interesting use cases, the automotive, transportation, and manufacturing industries. Kind of a similar thing where they're finding the need that they need to show 3D content in real time for a multitude of different reasons. Sometimes it's for something like crash testing or training your autonomous vehicles. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, the marketing department wants to show off a nice, sleek new image of a car. Whatever it is, a lot of that can be done right in Unity. So at this point, about 3 billion apps created in Unity are downloaded per month. So that's a lot of users using apps. This isn't just the game space again. This is across everything. So let's dive into some of these other industries that are using Unity. So a big one we're going to start with is XR. And this is kind of an umbrella industry, if you will, if we can even call it that. It covers so many sub industries too. So obviously XR is big in things like gaming and the media and entertainment space. But then we're also seeing this being used in something like construction or architecture or whatever it may be. So some great examples here. Pokemon Go was an app created in Unity. I think for a lot of people, it was an introduction to what XR or augmented reality can be. And at the time, it was kind of the baseline for it, where you would have your phone, you would just see the image behind it, and then you would overlay a Pokeball and Pikachu or whatever Pokemon it was on top of that. And it's gotten a lot more advanced than that these days, that's for sure. The phones are supporting a lot more interesting feature, which is back to that point of the technology and the user experience and what the user expects is rapidly changing. And Unity is a great platform to be able to do that. So both Coca-Cola and the Dr. Seuss brand actually are also creating interesting apps. The Coca-Cola was the 2019 holiday advertising campaign. You could go and place this little icy structure, I guess, and the traditional Coca-Cola polar bears would come out and play around on it, which is pretty cool. And Dr. Seuss, they're actually using it to help kids learn to read and write. Essentially, you can see in the picture there that they're drawing out letters in the augmented app, which is a great use to teach kids both technology and then simple skills that they're going to need for life as well. So XR is really picking up, and we're supporting that with some interesting. Software like Unity Mars. So when we talk about Unity, most people think of the game development engine, and I totally get why. We've been there forever. It's what most people have used, especially speaking to a convention crowd like this. But something like Unity Mars, which is a standalone product, really takes a lot of those traditional XR and VR tool sets we've had and adds them and makes them into something a lot bigger. So one of the big benefits here is if you've ever tried to make an augmented reality experience, it's kind of a pain that you have to set up your scene, do your code, do whatever it is you want to do, build it to the device, wait for it to transfer, then test it, and then maybe you find out there's a bug. And then you kind of have to go back and you lose a lot of time, and it can be a little bit frustrating. So Mars can actually step in and help simulate those real world environments right within the editor itself, and it can really cut down on your workflow and make things a lot faster. And it has access to a whole bunch of other cool tools as well. Now, this isn't intended to be a technical in-depth talk, so we're just going to kind of cover the surface of that. So we're seeing XR being used in a lot of classrooms at this point. Everyone from high school students all the way up to PhD students doing research and totally non-games fields are all using XR at this point, which is pretty cool. And we'll get to some of the skills you may have as a developer and how you can help out in some of these industries at the end. The next industry I wanted to go a little bit deeper into is AEC, architecture, engineering, and construction. It's one that I personally think is really cool. And again, we actually have a whole standalone product called Unity Reflect. And this is a really cool product for the AEC industry, where it allows them to use the tools that they're familiar with, but get that information and those models over to clients or other non-technical people without a lot of fuss, essentially. So they can use something like Rhino or Revit or SketchUp, create their models of their buildings or whatever it is that they're creating. And Unity Reflect allows other users to download a simple software or use a web viewer to actually see those models. The architects or engineers can make their changes real time, and then they can just view their product. And yes, you could traditionally do this in the Unity space, where you could just take a model and render it in Unity. But this is kind of going to that next step where you kind of have to cut out the middleman. You don't have to have a whole development team just to get a product to the client. Now, this is super useful if you're on a job site and you're trying to visualize something. Let's say you're an architect or an engineer, and you say, here's our plans, here's the construction crew, this is what we want you to build. Now, with something as simple as an iPad, you can hold it up and actually say, here's the structure we're about to build. What's overlay it on top of whatever is currently being built or exist already. And you can actually see the difference, like what this is going to look like when it's finished. So that's really handy for a few different reasons. If you're trying to sell a big architecture project to a client, let's say, you could use it there. Or if you, like I said, you're working with a construction crew, you could do something on that side as well. It's also being used a lot in training, and this is kind of XR mixed with engineering as well, where you can do training these days without having to have someone on site, like a trainer with you. And they can actually be in a remote location, much like we're doing right now, and see what you see through the headset or let's say the mobile device, and say, oh, you know what, this machine, you need to operate it in this way, whatever it is. There's lots of cool uses of XR. And we're seeing it in so many industries now. Let's move into the automotive, transportation, and manufacturing, because I think there's a lot of cool things here. We're seeing a lot of augmented reality being mixed in. Here's a great example with Volvo, where they actually have a headset you can put on in these demo cars, and sensors between the headset and the car can kind of read the landscape around you and warn you about upcoming things, and kind of all display it in a heads-up display. So in the image we're seeing here, you actually see a moose is coming across the street. Definitely something you don't want to hit in your car, and it can kind of give you a warning and say, apply the brakes, or do whatever it is, which I think is really cool. Like I mentioned earlier, we actually seeing a lot of uses in the marketing of these cars as well. With things like real-time ray tracing, it's getting really hard to tell the difference between a rendered vehicle and a real-time vehicle, or a real-life vehicle, I should say. And you can actually look up Unity BMW on YouTube, and we have a whole video about it where we kind of mix shots between a real car and rendered cars. And you tell me if you could tell the difference. It's really impressive. So something to look up on the side. Media entertainment, I think this is something we've all seen in the past, but it's a really cool one. The Lion King actually used Unity. They used the real time features of it mixed with VR to render out some of their shots. Or I shouldn't say not to render out some of the shots, but set up some of the shots for rendering. So what you're seeing in this image here, the final big picture you see is the final render that you see in the movie. The smaller image up top you see is like their real time working. And what they did was take a camera and mount a VR tracking disc on top of it. And now all of a sudden they're able to have the director and a cameraman and the production crew there essentially shooting this movie as if they were filming real lions, except for you're just in a soundstage or whatever. But you can get realistic camera movements. You can help ground the movie in real life, and you can see all that feedback in real time 3D. And we're seeing this also being applied to classrooms, where a lot of the media and entertainment students they need to have real time feedback. Traditionally, you would have a big render farm where you would come up with your animations, your scenes, your VFX, whatever, and you would send it off, and it would take days or maybe even weeks to come back to you. And then you could get your feedback. Now you can have a teacher look over your shoulder and say, "Oh, this is good. This needs improvement," whatever, all in real time. Another great example of that is The Heretic. It's a video we put out. Again, you can look it up on YouTube. It really shows the high definition render pipeline, one of the newer features, and how good you can get things looking in Unity. So I highly encourage you to look that up, The Heretic on YouTube. And you can see some really cool, realistic looking humans, as well as all kinds of cool VFX stuff. And that's all being done real time in Unity. So you can actually go in and change lights or change characters, delete things, add things as this movie's playing, more or less, which is totally something you could never do in traditional animation. So that's a bunch of what we're using it for. And let's talk about some of these tools that we're seeing. And a lot of these is what teachers are starting to actually teach in the classroom, which is pretty interesting. So me personally, I'm a programmer. I was never very good at art by any means. And entering Blender or Maya or anything like that was definitely outside my wheelhouse. But we have tools now like Pro Builder, Pro Grids, and Polybrush that enable people like me who are not very artistically inclined to actually create some basic models and structures directly in Unity. So if you are a traditional artist student, let's say, you probably wouldn't use this, but maybe for something like building a prototype or mocking something up, you can get some basic shapes and white box level really quick with something like this. Same thing here with Polybrush, where this as a non artist type person is an interface that I can understand a lot easier. And you can bring this to the classroom and have programming students who, like me, traditionally struggle with art, actually creating things for the game. We have more tools like the 3D world building tools, like the terrain editor, which enables you to create really cool, good looking terrain really quickly. I've definitely seen a lot of cool projects take use of this. We have a whole set of new 2D tools that enable you to make 2D experiences that are really cool. Things like 2D lighting now. We have 2D rigging and IK rigs for 2D instead of just 3D objects. You can import PSD files directly from Photoshop. Whole sweep of different cool tool sets like here, tile map editors where you can go and just drag and drop things and get the job done really quickly. A few more to cover here. We have timeline. This is great, especially if you are in that cinematic space. A lot of media and entertainment students are using this these days. They can use it and set it up traditionally like they would in other VFX software or editing software, but they can do it all real time, set up timelines like they're used to, and get cool cinematic either gameplay or just full cinematic videos. A few more to get through here. Cinemachine is a great camera tool. If you're not a programmer, let's say, maybe you are an artist and you want to have very cinematic looking games, but you don't want to program, crazy cameras, do all the math yourself. Cinemachine is a great resource and something you should definitely be looking at. Shader graph and VFX graph. These are two that I personally really love. Again, as a programmer, I remember having to write a lot of shaders by hand. They're not simple. They're hard to debug because they run on the GPU. But now we have tools like Shader Graph where you can just drag and drop nodes. Let's say you are an art student and you understand that side really well, but you're not a programmer. Now you can kind of get the best of both worlds and mix them together and create cool looking effects all in one spot. VFX graph is something very similar where you can make really cool VFX without having to do a lot of programming. It's great for both programmers that don't understand the art side as well, and then artists that don't understand the programming side. You can kind of come together in the middle and get really cool effects without having to get too deep in either one of those disciplines. We have, if you're not wanting to use Unity Mars completely, we have the Mixed Reality Toolkit, AR Foundations, and the XR Interaction Toolkit, all available to you. Lots of cool tools to get you up and running if you want to be in those spaces, as well as the Unity Asset Store, which is a great spot to go if you're like me, you're an artist, a non-technical, and you want to get some assets that you can use and show in your games as well. So lots of cool stuff here. And one last slide let's get to before we go into questions is what does this mean for education? So if you are a student or you're teaching at this point, some of the big takeaways. Unity skills are relevant outside of the gaming industry at this point. And I think that's something I didn't learn right away, but it was an important thing to take away. If you are studying as a game development student or a computer science student, don't walk away or get your education and walk away assuming that you have to get a job in just the games industry. I get it. You want to get a job there. It's fun. It's an awesome industry. If you can get in, I highly recommend it. But the reality of it is competitive. There's a lot of people going for those same skills. And if you can't get a job right out of school in the game industry, don't think that's the end. You can still still use those same skills in a lot of these different industries now, and find meaningful, good, cool work. And then at the same time, if you get into those industries, you can always transfer back to the game industry as well. We're in the middle of a fourth industrial revolution. Some say it's coming, some say it started. There's no real hard date to it. But long story short is there's a huge need for new tools, and tech is always expanding. Everything from autonomous vehicles to delivery drones to just talking over the internet. XR, all of these skills are things that are brand new jobs. They're jobs that are just being created, jobs that we never would have thought about even maybe the beginning of this year, are jobs that people are filling now. So learn these skills and make sure that you have a good grasp with them, but don't be afraid to transfer them to other industries as well. And I think that'll really help with future proofing yourself. So we went a little bit over, but we do have a few minutes for questions here. I think this is maybe a good time to stop and see if we have any questions from the audience.
All right, are we on?
Yep.
All right, hey Ben. Maybe, are we on?
Oh, I don't know if I have audio on you guys on the chat.
Yeah, take the.
Ben! We're good.
Okay, I think we're back. Can you hear us? No.
Yep. Okay, I can hear you now.
All right, awesome.
Cool.
So yeah, thank you for again for coming. I wanted to first of all, Among Us, the game is insane and it's taken quite a few hours of my time this week. But one of the things that you mentioned that seemed like a core thread that a lot of people I don't think about is just the breadth of gaming technology and how it's kind of the cutting edge of a lot of things. So at Multivarious, our day job is working with clients. We probably do 80% of our stuff in Unity, but about 75% of our work is in healthcare or education. We also do stuff in marketing. So I hate the phrase. It's more than just games. Like that really bothers me because I think it's sort of dismissive towards gaming in general. But I agree with you, and we found a lot of use in Unity in particular, but just in a lot of the game techniques and concepts being applied, interactive design, user-centered design. So I don't know if you just want to touch on kind of maybe what you're seeing or what you think you're going to see in the next year or two coming from your technology, but not necessarily in making games?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I have a very similar experience to that, where I got into a small development shop here. Our main focus, or what we wanted to be the main focus, was the gaming industry. But reality is, the gaming industry doesn't always pay the bills. We want to make these cool indie games, but sometimes you got to take on these other projects. So, for us, I think some big things we're seeing. Probably the biggest thing that I see in the education sector is the use of XR, so augmented reality, virtual reality, whatever it is. And I think that has that similar story to what you're saying, where it kind of, at least the most current generation of VR, got its start in the gaming industry, but now we're seeing it used in so many other industries. And I think it was that, gaming in it was cool. And there's still a good gaming sector in the VR space for sure. But then all of a sudden, you had non-gaming people get a hold of this and be like, "Wow, this is mind-blowing." When I put this headset on, I can convince myself that I'm about to walk off the ledge of a building and freak out because I'm afraid of heights or whatever it is. And then they take that and they go, "Whoa, what if we applied that to training someone that's about to use a power tool or some dangerous equipment? All of a sudden, we can essentially trick them into risk or thinking that there's a risk there, but if they do the wrong thing, no one gets hurt at the end of the day." And I think we've seen that. That's kind of where it started going into. Now we're seeing it being paired with so much real-time technology, like new sensors on cars is a great example, where now we're seeing that technology and the need to render out 3D being applied to so many things. So I think that's a really big one. If anyone's just getting into real-time 3D for gaming or for otherwise, definitely watch the XR space and see what's happening there. I think that's the biggest one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we got a healthcare project. We just started a joint venture in the architecture space using virtual reality. And I think we're starting to see a lot of those uses in these different areas that you don't even really associate with gaming at all. And for me, as someone who's been in the industry for a while and been a gamer for, I don't know, 30 plus years, that's exciting.
So have a question.
Do we have a question?
Yeah.
No. It's time.
It's time.
Okay. Well, then, thank you, Ben, for being here. We really appreciate it. Feel free to hang around in Discord or Twitch if you want to and answer questions. But really appreciate you being here. And have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I'll see everyone in the Discord. If anyone has any chat or any questions, I'll hang out in the chat on both Discord and Twitch.
Sweet.
So thanks for having me, and enjoy the rest of the event, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.